Welcome to the Poke It podcast with me, Pete Jenkins, and my co-host, Nicola Cairncross. In the show, we'll be getting deeply interested in everything and everyone, including business and entrepreneurship, investing, crypto, great films, books, and sci-fi, served up with great food and wine, and a little bit of gamification, and the odd guest thrown in for good measure. You can join in the conversation anytime at the Poke It podcast private group on Facebook. Now, let's see what we're going to be poking at today, shall we?
Promoted this anywhere. We haven't done anything. Nobody knows we're going live, but here we are. Hello.
Hello, welcome to another week of the Poke It podcast.
Very good, Pete. Featuring
me, Pete Jenkins, and my lovely, that way.
Yep. My lovely what?
Colleague, Nicola Cairncross. I was waiting for you to fill in the gap.
All right. Good stuff. All right. So what have we been up to this week then?
What haven't I been up to? Crikey. I feel, I've been recording other podcasts. I've been interviewed on a couple. I think I mentioned I was going to be doing that. They were a lot of fun. One was very short, but incredibly high intensity. And
tell us more about that one.
So I think there was the interviewer style. It was very, and now, and then, and this, and that. I was like, whoa, okay, this is exciting. And then after 25 minutes, I went, good, that's done.
That's my natural style, if given half a chance.
Is it indeed?
Yeah. I have to work quite hard at being laid back and conversational.
I've been working hard on my conference. So I've had quite a few people say they'd like to speak at it. And of course, every single one, you've got to fine tune the talk idea and the description and get them on theme with the conference. I think we were talking about that the other day.
Yeah.
And that's more time consuming than I remembered, actually. Yeah. It's good, like 25, 30 minutes per potential speaker in thinking about what they're going to put on and how I would reword it. So that's quite good fun. And then on a personal note, decided to have a Hungarian themed night on Monday night. So I made Hungarian Goulash for the first time.
Very nice.
And it was, yeah.
Is it a meat-based dish with cream, isn't it?
Yes.
And paprika.
Loads of paprika. And I love paprika, so I don't know why I haven't made this years before. But
done well, it's delicious. And what did you have it with?
We did it with potatoes.
Okay.
And it worked quite well like that. And I then watched a Hungarian movie, which was what was it? It was excellent. It was an animation.
No.
Just forgotten the name of it, but it was basically like a thriller.
Hold on. Someone from Hull is calling me. We won't be answering that. It's just buzzing. Carry on.
When was I? And basically it was quite psychedelic in some ways, but it was quite an entertaining movie. I'll find the link and share it later.
Oh, well, I wouldn't bother because I never watch anime. Phoebe likes anime, but Hungarian anime. It wasn't about vampires and Dracula, was it?
No, not at all. It was an art heist movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I haven't got enough time in my life for art-based Hungarian movies. Subtitled, presumably, or dubbed?
Now you got me remembering. No, dubbed. But it worked fine with animation.
Yeah. No, Phoebe watches a lot of strange anime that comes from the Far East, all about sort of characters, warriors, fighting across landscapes and things like that. All dubbed. Very strange. The voices they use are just hilarious.
I like that sort of thing as well. I don't normally choose an anime to watch, but it made a nice change.
Yeah. Phoebes, could you access my answer phone and see who that was? Thank you. Not in here, though, because I'm talking to Pete live on the podcast.
She does know. She's commented in the chat that she likes paprika too.
Mm-hmm. Did you really? Are you watching us, Phoebes? Mm-hmm. How lovely. We've got one viewer. How marvellous, Pete. He's very loyal.
What have you been up to in the last week?
Well, having said that I was going to have a quiet week, it's been anything but. My God, Bitcoin's gone bonkers. Basically what's been happening is more and more people have been announcing that they're keeping their cash reserves of their business in Bitcoin as a way of hedging against inflation. And that's driving the price up slowly but steadily. And then what happens is you get to this sort of resistance point, and the next resistance point after $11,500 was 12,800, I think it was. And so the price will bounce up against the resistance for 2 or 3 times. If it goes through the next time, then the resistance then becomes a support level. If it doesn't go through after 3 or 4 times, it will drop and drop down. Something technical happens. I think it takes out all the people who've got stop losses set, and it'll consolidate somewhere, probably at the last resistance level. But it went straight through 12,800. It tried 12,000 a couple of times over the last month, and it just went straight through. It went straight through 12,800. I'm not joking. I was literally watching it doing it, and it was so exciting because we've been waiting for like a year and a half for this, really. So it's been going sideways and up and down, and obviously COVID sent it down. I so wish I'd had some spare cash to buy some at 3,800 when it went down in the first time. February, April, because you'd have tripled your money by now, which is just amazing. And so then it kept going, and it went through 13,000. Now the next level was 13,108, I think it is, or 13,088. It's around the 13,100, and it did top that last night. It went to 13,280. And it was just the most exciting thing ever. But I have been out as well. I haven't just been sitting watching Bitcoin going up and down. But of course, the interesting thing that happens when something like that happens is all these people that you've been banging on about Bitcoin forever get in touch with you. Now, luckily, I created a report with all the information, because people need to watch certain things in certain orders to be able to understand them. The hidden sources of money, followed by the wealth cycle video, followed by the open letter to Ray Dalio, where 2 very clever people talk about why Bitcoin's different to all the other coins and why it's going to be important. And then, of course, then PayPal announced that they were going to be letting people buy and sell and hold crypto within PayPal and Bitcoin, crypto, and digital currencies. Now, I've had a lot of people contacting me recently who've been selling houses and things and having big chunks of money. And they're remembering that I've been saying for the last 6 months, don't hold any big chunks of money in your bank, because there is a digital currency coming. And they'll just, basically what they'll do is they'll just take away your real money and give you digital currency that they've got complete control over. So all these people who've now been selling their houses, who've got like 2,500, 2,800, whatever, sitting in their banks, are remembering that I've said that, and they're getting in touch and they're saying, that stuff you were talking about months ago. And of course, now they're talking about a new Bretton Woods agreement, which is big news. And but they want me to do the proving to them that I know
you are the experiment for your family and friends, aren't you?
Yes, I am. But they want me to that they want me to send links. And so anyway, I put it all together in a report, because I was sick and fed up of trying to, every single time trying to go through the same information that I gave them back in January and February. They totally ignored it. So I've got a report that I just hand out now. And I say, right, when you've watched this set of videos and this video, come back to me with any questions. And that's like a little, what's it called, thing that you have to jump over. A little hurdle.
A hurdle.
Yeah, a hoop you can jump through, or a hurdle you can jump over. And if you're very good, you can jump over a hurdle and through a hoop. And then I'll give you some more information. And so that's what's been happening, really, as things are getting more and more lively. And then Monday, my sister Heather called up, and we haven't actually talked for a few weeks, because all this stuff makes her quite anxious. Anything talking about COVID and the numbers being fudged by the government and Bitcoin and Bretton Woods, she hates it all. So I haven't really talked to her much, because I've been trying not to make her anxious, and it's all I can think about. But she finally invited me and Phoebe round on Monday night, and we had a really lovely evening. We weren't talking about any of it. We were managing to talk about other stuff right to the very end, when her partner Richard turned up from his playing football, and we did get into a little bit of a discussion. But I was able to say to her, look, I'm really sorry I've been making you anxious. I don't want to. I've just been sharing information. And I will not share any information around you if it makes you anxious. And then, of course, I came home and she shared a bloody Independent article with me that she'd read, and I just went back to her and I said, look, are we going to talk about this or not? Because, I can't do it by half measures.
Is this now one of the things we don't talk about at dinner? No talking about politics, no talking about cryptocurrencies. No
talking about the forthcoming financial collapse, no talking about the forthcoming election, no talking about the fudging of the figures, no talking about, the fact that our own Office of National Statistics have brought out figures that show that the excess deaths now are no worse than they would be in any normal year for the last 5 years. But people don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it, Pete. So I'm trying to keep my mouth shut, which means not going out as much. Because I can't keep my mouth shut, as you know.
Lock her away.
Yes. So, yes, it's been quite a lively sort of few days, really, which I wasn't expecting. But we did have a lovely time. And thankfully, Heather and I are talking again, which is the main thing.
That's good. If not about that subject.
Yeah, exactly. I have to just think up other things like puppies. We're very keen on golden retrievers in our family. So we talk about my nephew's golden retriever quite a lot.
So there's a meme. I mean, you like a good meme, don't you? About
I do, yes.
Golden retrievers turning into dolphins. Have you seen that?
No.
Dolphins being golden retrievers. You need to look at that at some point.
They are the golden retrievers of the sea world, that's for sure.
Yeah, but there's some nice visuals out there from.
Is there? I'll do a search. In fact, I'll do a search while you start to talk about our main topic.
Well, this week you kind of led into it with talking about Bitcoin and cash and lumps of money, but was about business and dealing with cash flow, credit control, payment terms, that sort of things, and what we've learned between us over the years.
Oh, so much.
So gosh, 20 years ago when I started my IT business, one of the bits of software we resold was an accounting software package. And one of the things I noticed was that as a reseller, every single invoice our supplier of accounting software sent us was wrong in some way, shape, or form. No. Sometimes in our benefit, sometimes in theirs. So I thought, if accounting software people get it wrong, what chance has everyone else got?
In my previous life, I have done various jobs of varying degrees of boringness, boredom. Banality. No, I don't know what the right word is.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And one of them was being an accounts assistant, because I'm in my slightly OCD side is quite intrigued by the idea of lots of rows of numbers that you can tick very neatly. And I've got a bit of completer finisher, but not much, and that quite enjoys the whole double entry sort of thing of bookkeeping. But the thing I've always found, and I've tried all of them with accounting packages, is that if they spit out a result that you don't trust or don't know if it's right or not, it's impossible to dig under the hood and see where it's gone wrong. So I've always actually prefer, and in fact I was recommended to use spreadsheets, just simple spreadsheets to run. That's the other thing about accounting packages, and you're going to tell me I'm wrong in a minute, that I could never get them to produce a proper cash flow forecast that was useful. And it was only when I met some very wealthy property investor friends, and they said, no, we run all our money on spreadsheets that we can see, and we do it weekly, and we do a cash flow forecast that spreads out for 2 years, and we reconcile it to our bank accounts weekly. So you have one of these spreadsheets for each bank account, and then you give those to your accountant at the end of the year, and he takes the figures he needs from those, and that's worked brilliantly ever since.
So in terms of cash flow forecasting, I wouldn't disagree with you. Until recently, many of the accounting packages weren't very good at that at all.
Yeah.
Considering the amount of data you hold in them, with dates and repeatability, it would seem like a no-brainer. But there's quite a few plugins and add-ons that do that quite well now. And Zero Accounts, which I use now, has a sort of like a snapshot, cash flow snapshot.
Zero is one of the accounting packages that when I was in Greece, because I met the people who run beanninjas.com, and they exclusively work on Zero. So I got them to set me all up on Zero. Not once could I reconcile it to my bank account. Not 1 month in the year or so I was doing it. And I should have paid them to do it, really, but it was nearly $200 a month. And I thought, I'd rather just do it myself, because I like to have my finger on the...
Yeah, it shouldn't be that hard either.
No. So, but you do it and run your accounts on Zero?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I've used it for, I don't know, 10 years or something now, maybe longer. Because I built a telecoms billings package on it. So using the API. So I was able to take some billing data from each phone system that we had with clients, do some calculations around their packages, and then squirt that into Zero, and then automatically send the invoices out. So
you get an absolute snapshot of how much more techie he is than I am. And I think of myself as quite a geek, so you are a geek.
I mean, I paid someone to create that for me, but the idea, I knew the system could handle it.
Yeah. Because you were able to look under the hood enough to know how it was working. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had to fine tune it every month for about 6 months until like all the weird scenarios happened.
Yeah.
But then there's only a few things to check each month, and then it just ran itself for like years after that. It was great.
Let's talk about accountants here as well, because there is a big difference between accountants who are proactive and help you look forward, and accountants who can warn you about things in advance, than normal accountants who just basically sign off on your accounts and submit them to the Inland Revenue and charge you a fortune for doing so.
Yeah. So which ones have you ended up using? Because I agree.
I've been very lucky. I went to a BNI when I first arrived in Worthing, and I met Mark Nicholson from Spoffhorse in Worthing, and he was very proactive. And we used to have lunch about once every 3 months and talk about everything I was doing, and he was able to sort of guide me in advance.
So lunch is the common theme here for you.
Yeah, lunch is really good.
Good accountant will take me to lunch.
Yeah, I think we used to take it in turns, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think same with the bank manager. You have to get to know them. You have to they have to know your business really well so that they can think of things that might help you.
Yeah. I mean, talking about all this effort around spreadsheets and accounting software, because it's been such an issue for so long, I went a different approach, which was just building such a healthy cash flow methodology that I didn't have to worry about the forecast.
Talk us through that.
So build the basics of your business such that there's always more cash coming in than you need to be spending. Yeah.
Well, that depends on good marketing and sales as well, doesn't it?
Not just that, though. So, for instance, I used to import software from abroad. They weren't, particularly one company in Belgium, for instance, for many years, they weren't very good at admin. But also as an importer, you can agree payment terms. So basically, I was selling software as a service. So I was billing my customers on the first of the month for the month ahead.
Another big difference with your business to a lot of businesses.
Yeah, although I've always had a mix of one-offs and things as well. But in that particular instance, so I bill on the first of the month, get money by the end of the month, probably earlier in the month. So we'll talk about other methods of getting the money in a minute. And then at the end of the month, that's when my supplier was able to invoice me. So I'd automatically get 2 months. Basically, I could potentially get money on the first day of the month and then pay my supplier in 2 months' time. So I've naturally got a 2-month cash flow window.
Which is brilliant and very unusual, because lots of businesses invoice and then wait for up to 90 days to get paid.
Yeah.
I've never worked. I get paid immediately. I mean, since 1999, when I started coaching, with coaching, you just get paid in advance.
Yeah, well, that's the best cash flow of all.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
So why do you even need to forecast cash flow if you're just getting paid in advance?
Because
sales.
Well, because expenses fluctuate all the time.
What?
And expenses fluctuate all the time, and what you pay yourself. Now, this is a really important lesson I've learned. What you pay yourself used to depend on what was left over after you paid expenses. That was my method of working. And I never took any money out of the business, even when it was good times. I always left it in the business. And then I read a book called Profit First by Michael Michalski. Michael, I can never say his surname, but look it up anyway. It's brilliant. Profit First. And what he teaches is how to turn your business from a cash guzzling machine to, I can't remember the outcome, but it was good. And what he does is he moves the marketing. So you've got your income, you've got your cost of sale, and then you've got your marketing, and then you've got your director's drawings. And all of that comes before all the expenses of the business. So you're setting yourself up from the beginning to be able to take money to pay yourself and to take money out of your business as a percentage of profit. And then you don't end up having expenses that just get more and more varied. In my business, it's very much software subscriptions and advertising.
They're cumulative, aren't they?
Really do, yeah. They really do. I used to constantly be cancelling my credit cards. Once every 6 months, I'd just cancel all my credit cards, say I've lost them, and start again, because then you get an email from the company who's tried to take your money, and they say, do you want to update your card? And it gives you an opportunity to look at it and think, am I actually using that anymore? And does it actually work? And is it doing anything for my business?
Yeah.
So how do you tackle that?
How do I? Oh,
expenses. How do you? I mean, you seem surprised when I said expenses can be variable.
Only because I've always found mine quite fixed. They just accumulate. So the only things I have are variable tend to relate to sales. So if I sell more of something, I have to buy more of something. So that's fine. So long as you've got the cash flow bit working so that your client pays first before you have to pay your supplier, then you're good.
Yeah.
And to make that happen, very early on, I found direct debit systems that you didn't have to get from the bank, because originally you'd have to pay put 30 grand in a deposit account and in order to sign up for a direct debiting system through your bank.
Wow.
And various other onerous things like that, which of course you can't afford as a small business. You can't just afford to have 30 grand sitting there doing nothing. You probably don't have it. but now it was at the start of Challenger Financial Services. So I found an organization that would do direct debiting, and you just log on, set up a direct debit, email a copy of all the stuff to the client. They can say yay, nay, or whatever. That's fine. That's the direct debit guarantee. And off you go. And it does it for you. And it just pay, what did I pay? 1% or something.
There's a couple of other differences there, isn't there? That you're working with corporates, and also you are working with corporates selling them something that they want to do without. So it's regarded as an essential rather than a luxury.
You say that, but this works for membership clubs and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I think the smallest invoice I have historically is £6.89 a month for a client, which is just like some old website that ticks along that they don't want to lose, but they're not doing much.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to be doing anything manual about that. If I have to pick up the phone and chase that up, I've lost any profit for the next 3 years just by in that moment for the amount of time. So it's got to be automated. And you can't just do it with card payment stuff, although that's getting easier because cards expire like yours or get deliberately cancelled.
They get cancelled and cut up.
But people generally don't change bank accounts very often.
No, they're more likely to get divorced than change their bank, apparently. Yeah. Statistics say.
Yeah.
We all know how much they tell the truth. So I totally don't want to make it sound like you've had it easy, because I know you haven't. I was just pointing out the differences between a lot of small businesses and your kind of small business. So have you had any occasions where clients have stiffed you on a payment and it's really hurt?
God, all the time.
All the time.
Well, after 20 years of business, it feels like all the time. But there's some recent examples because of COVID. I've got a bunch of suppliers abroad who are all in the event space who owe me money. So they've got no money coming in because they're not running events. Yeah. So technically, I'm not stiffed yet.
See, they obviously didn't have a cash flow cushion, did they? Because if they did, they're hanging on to their cash flow cushion rather than paying you.
So it's probably a mix of those two things.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is fair enough. Yeah, as in fair enough in terms of how they're managing it. Not great for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the biggest issue for me there is it's much harder to chase money abroad.
Yeah, of course it is.
In the EU, it was always fine, but that'll change as of the end of December. So we'll lose some of our rights for chasing up money abroad. So I'll have to be strict with my EU clients from then on.
Yeah. I remember when we had the record label, we regularly had to get paid from distributors who then sold on to record shops and various other things. And we often had to get what they called solicitors' letters that made you the top preferred creditor in the event that they went bust. And that generally did the trick. I can't remember what it's called now. There's a special name for it.
I don't know that one, but
yeah, it was basically, it cost us about 20 or 30 quid. It was a formal letter to say, unless you get, you can only do it with limited companies. Unless you pay us within 7 days of receipt, we'll wind your company up and we're the preferred creditor. And that was very effective.
Yeah. Winding up letters, great stuff.
Well, that's right. It's going to
you can only do that with certain values and above. So, but
yes, I think it was. But we were talking about several £100s at the very least on a order of records. They wouldn't take 10; they'd take a few hundred. So it was touch and go sometimes. If we didn't get that money, then the company couldn't keep going. I mean, I got stiff just before Christmas because even though I do take payment up front completely from my mentoring services, I do occasionally get tempted into doing done for you services. And I had a £6,000 a month client that was happily going along, and I was doing everything we were supposed to be doing. And I don't know whether they got wind of COVID coming because they were international and they were based in Switzerland. But one month they said they'd sent the money and they just didn't. And that was just before Christmas. And the same previous month, somebody who had owed me a big chunk of affiliate income, which was about nearly 10 grand in total here between the two things.
Mm-hmm.
And normally I don't put the extra stuff in the cash flow until it actually arrives. But on this occasion, because it was Christmas, I think I'd put a bit of it in the cash flow and was relying on it. And they just didn't pay either. And I've
double whammy.
Never heard from either of them since, in spite of my best efforts. I even bought their name scam.com. So I could let other people know if I could, but the negative energy of that was just
it sucks.
No, horrid. But I have let a few people know privately that they should be careful with this person because they'd done that to me. And reputation is everything.
Always fits around eventually.
Yeah, yeah. Reputation is everything. And when I had a company that we, the money gym that was, for various reasons, we had to close. I was very proud of the fact that we'd paid all the little people, and the only people that we hadn't paid were the inland revenue and the bank. So I'm laughing, but
doing it the right way around.
Well, exactly, because little people really depend on it, don't they, to live?
Yeah, I mean, my point of pride is I always try and pay the smallest suppliers fastest.
Yes.
Yeah. So the only time that doesn't happen is if I'm just distracted by other work.
Yeah.
Practicalities get in the way.
Yeah. You get a great service like that too.
Yeah.
So
suppliers stick with you through thick and thin. Then I've always done the same for my customers. If they pay me fast, they get well looked after. I've got one client. This happened last week. One client who gets the invoice, doesn't read it properly because it says that I'm going to take the payment by direct debit in 16 days' time, and immediately sends me the money by bank transfer. And so then I have to go and cancel the direct debit.
Oh, God. Interestingly, talking about it, I mean, we're going to talk about pricing and things in a minute. I mean, I got someone around the other day to estimate for replacing the carpet in the living room and the hall stairs. And then also another quote for living room, hall, stairs, and 3 bedrooms. And they sent it to me, and I thought, oh, that's not bad. And it had carpet, underlay, gripper, silvers, which are the things the door bars go across, and disposing of all existing flooring. And then it said, total price, including VAT. And I thought, okay. And it laid out the VAT. And it was only when I read it a little bit more carefully that it said pay the price to accept this quote and pay £750 direct to installer on completion.
Ooh.
Which was not included in the final quote, price. So I'm thinking that's really reasonable. And then I think pay £750 on top extra. So I gave them some fairly robust feedback on their estimating techniques.
That's not good.
No, I understand why they did it, but it made me feel like they were being sneaky. And I think there must be people who accept those quotes not realising and pay that money, not realising they've got another big wedge to pay when the fitter comes.
Yeah. Also, it sounds like quite a lot for fitting, just saying.
Well, yes. That was just for I know it's quite complicated upstairs. So how do you go about pricing things and costing things and quoting for things?
Gosh, you mean apart from just sticking a finger in the air and guessing?
Well, I've got a better technique. I stick a finger in the air, guess, and then triple it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's a good practice because actually we tend to undervalue ourselves.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
I've always had that issue, giving away services for a nothing or a pittance because you want to be liked, don't you?
Yeah.
You want to be needed.
Yeah. We actually have a previous episode where we talked about brain picking and free to fee. Was it episode 5? I think it possibly was.
One of them, definitely.
Yeah, 5 or 6. So go back and have a watch of that. Pauses. Go back and watch that, and then come back to this one. So how do you go about it then?
I think there's lots of different approaches. Okay, so there's some which are about just making sure you don't make a loss. So and I teach
let's grade them in order of desirability. That's the least desirable way of doing it.
It is, but it's a good double check. That's why I like to have it in mind, because sometimes you can go and ask customers what they'd be willing to pay for something and go, okay, and then start setting it up, and then not realize it's completely unaffordable to you because you haven't looked at the costs of doing it properly.
I've never asked a customer what they'd be willing to pay yet and got a decent answer. because of course they're not going to tell you what they're willing to pay. They're going to tell you what they'd like to pay.
It happens occasionally. So every now and then someone goes, can you fit it within the budget? And I go, well, I don't know what your budget is. And they'll tell me. I go, oh, that's interesting. And I generally put my prices up after that.
Yeah.
Not for that one. Not necessarily for that one, but it's a bit of an insight into what the market's doing at the moment. So.
It is. And I think it's really important to be market led, but because it'll generally be more than you would be comfortable paying.
Yeah.
But also you've got to try and make yourself uncomparable, in the fact that I once went to quote a local solicitor for Facebook ads, and we worked out that we talked about the ads, how much they cost, how much extra business it could bring in if we achieve certain targets on conversions, and we worked out, I think, that a large amount of money could be made. And then when it came down to my quoting my monthly retainer, because she sat there and worked out that it was more than she was earning per hour, she couldn't go for it. But she didn't realise that I put in 10 years training to get there.
Yeah, of course. But I always think a good comparison, by the way, is solicitors' monthly hourly rates. Yeah, if you want to know what you're worth and you're an expert in what you do, then look at an industry like that, and that's what you should be charging.
Accountants.
Yeah, I think solicitors tend to charge more, don't they? But so I would aim for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, top accountants partners in the firms charge about the same as good solicitors.
Okay, yeah, so that's fair. Although a lot of accountants, it's difficult to know what the hourly rate is because there's so much more fixed price stuff in that industry.
Yeah.
But sometimes you read about a local solicitor charging £350 an hour, and you go, oh my god, I do a lot better job than that in my industry for where I am. I should be charging more than that.
I've swapped entirely to value-based pricing now, which is if somebody wants me to do a job for them on the done for you basis. I read a really excellent book called $1 Million Consulting, and it was all about how to. I've got the ebook. I think I can send it to you.
No, I've got it.
You've got it?
Yeah, it's great.
Well, it shifted my mind around entirely to having the conversation about what the services you were going to provide to the company, what it was going to make them over the next year, and that your fee should be based on 10% of that.
Yeah, exactly. What are you worth is the difference you can make.
Yes, exactly. And that's a very nice way of doing it. And also it leads to really easy sales conversations because the customer talks themselves into it once you start playing around with, well, in my case, start playing with ad costs, and I've even got a spreadsheet. I do the spreadsheet in front of them. So I ask them questions and we plug in the figures, and it's there in black and white how much extra they could make.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that makes it easier. It's when you can't directly prove it that makes it harder. Some of the stuff we work on in gamification is like a culture change project or something like that, and then there's no direct.
So how do you go about it then in that conversation?
Well, it's much harder, isn't it? Because you can't tie it to the end sale. So you have to think about what their objectives and values are. I mean, that book actually covers a few different approaches to it as well, but you haven't had to worry about the other approaches so much.
No, I've ignored them. You may have noticed I'm getting smaller because I'm pushing you further away. I always forget to do this at the beginning of the call. End up looking like a giant next to you. So how do you do you have to ask questions like how are we going to tell whether we've done a good job, or how are we going to tell if the project has been a success and things like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, a classic question is, what does success look like to the client?
Yeah.
And if they can't actually put that into words, they're probably not ready for you yet anyway. If they don't know. I mean, so many consulting jobs come with, and can you tell us what we should be doing? What should we be looking to achieve?
You're in such a new field, aren't you?
So it's tricky, isn't it?
The good news is you've positioned yourself as an expert right from day one by becoming chairman of GamFed and starting your conference and everything and your awards.
Yeah, also right from day one, I was quite picky about the sort of projects I would work on as well.
So projects that were more likely to be successful and bring a good outcome to the customer?
Yeah, good names, good outcomes. I did do a few smaller ones because they were just interesting. You do get tucked away into that. And also, if it's a new industry or something, I might experiment and try something out. But yeah, I would say if you can actually get a value out of them for what it's worth to them, then that's the easiest possible sale, and working out how to charge on that.
Yeah.
But the biggest issue with large corporates is the fight between the fact that they'll often have an agreed daily rate. So then they start specifying how many days you're going to work for them. And they might have a maximum daily rate they can go to. And sometimes you just succumb and go, all right, I'll do it. And then later on you realize it was a terrible idea. I should have stuck to my guns and just gone the value-based approach.
Yeah.
But it depends who you're dealing with internally. The higher up they are, the easier it is they can sign off on a value-based one. The lower down, they have to have so much evidence about what the deliverables would be. I hate that word.
Yes.
What are the
I hate deliverables as well. You get bullet points out of me for deliverables, and you're lucky if you get those.
I mean, deliverables tie you in to not necessarily being able to pivot and change and go with what the project needs. That's what annoys me.
And also, it gives the client an opportunity to go off and share your deliverables with someone else and say, what would you charge for that?
Yeah, very true. Or sometimes they just go, oh, that's a good plan. Yes, we'll go and take that and do that.
Yeah. Oh, yes, exactly. Well, they think they can do it themselves. Yeah, that's always a good one. And the other challenge is obviously, I come across it a lot because I work with self-employed people a lot, and that's through choice because I find them more entertaining, interesting, rewarding than working with corporates. Although I've worked with all sorts of corporates in my time, like the private bank stands out as a particularly difficult client. And I did London several times on that one, which I wasn't very keen on. But it's about self-esteem as well, isn't it? So especially with, because a lot of the times, my daughter is a videographer, as you know, and she really struggles with quoting, pricing. And I've tried to teach her to say, what's the budget and what's the brief and what's the budget. Yeah. But she's working with people who are trying to do everything on the absolute cheapest, and she has a problem with, would she pay that, or would she?
Yeah, that was my problem I had to overcome. I wouldn't pay that.
But I wouldn't pay that because you haven't got any money. So
yes, exactly. So you get stuck. So what I've noticed is my clients who are good at paying, who are good at charging, are perfectly willing to pay more for things.
Yes.
Yeah, because they value what people do much more.
Yes.
So you kind of, I don't know whether you can trick yourself. Can you pay more for stuff and then that will teach you how to charge?
No, I've got a technique for doing this, and I used to teach it to everybody. So what you do is you work out what you're going to, what's your ideal amount of money to earn in a year when you're successful? Say 3 years down the line, what would you like to be earning when you're successful? And then I would get them to take the tax off that, which is always a big shock because invariably they're up in the higher tax bracket by then. And then I would get them to work it out how many days a year they wanted to work, how many holidays did they want, did they want to work weekends, did they want to work a full week? And we gradually whittle it down to an hourly rate, which invariably was around £200 to £300 an hour. And that it's funny because the zeitgeist changes as you go along. People now want to earn 10 grand a month, whereas before it was 3 grand a month. So back when I started 20 years ago, it's 3 grand a month. Now it's 10 grand a month. That's the ideal figure. And so you get to this point where it's 300 or 500 pounds an hour. And I'd say, well, are you earning that now? And they say, no. I say, okay, so the difference between what you're earning now, you are already a successful person. If you do the things that we've planned you're going to do, you're going to become a successful person. And your time is worth now £300 an hour. Yeah. So anything you do that you could get done cheaper, you're wasting your own time. You're robbing your business, and you're making it slower for you to get there to when you are worth that.
So you're talking about outsourcing stuff that costs less than £300.
Yes, like cleaning. I mean, ridiculous that anyone pays for cleaning if they're working full time and they got a family. But sometimes you haven't actually got the cash flow available. So what you're doing is you're paying yourself to do your cleaning, or you're discounting. Now this is a good one to say. So especially with coaching, I started charging for my coaching slightly more than I paid my coach. Because I knew that I was already paying her that, and I was getting enormous value from it. But I also knew she was just under £300 a month. I remember it very vividly. And I was paying her £295 a month, which I really didn't feel I could afford, but she was so worth it. It changed my life. And I started charging £325 a month. And because I knew that £300 was a psychological barrier.
Yeah.
So then, and when she laughed when she found out that I was charging more than she was charging me, but she was very impressed with my reasoning.
And reasoning. Yeah. I think that's great. Yeah,
But
you've got to push yourself to find out as well.
Yeah. So the important thing about the story about how to work out what you're worth per hour is that if you decide to work for less than that in between now and 3 years' time, you tell everyone that your time is worth £300 an hour, but you're giving them a special discount because, and then whatever the because is, it's irrelevant. You make it up, whatever it is. But the point is that it psychologically ingrains it. The more you talk about it, the more you do it, the more you put it on invoices. £300 an hour first time customer discount,
or
whatever. It just embeds in your brain that your time is worth £300 an hour or whatever.
It's really important to put it like that, because it's really difficult to put prices up for existing customers.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas if you say it's discounted for 6 months because you're a first-time customer, then obviously that discount runs out.
Yes.
Whereas if you start at a particular price and then go, hey, I'm doubling it, they're going to go, what? No.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yes, exactly. So, yeah, but it's something about, it shifts something inside you about how much your time is worth. And it also stops you prevaricating. If you sit down at your desk and you've only got 3 hours before the kids come home or whatever, or before your husband comes home or whatever, I'm obviously coming at it from a female point of view, but it's just as valid for men. Then you know that if you sit and waste those 3 hours on Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok, you're doing your business out of £900 worth of effort.
Now, you see, I've definitely met a local solicitor who thinks that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Who's like, every time you offer to, do you want to come for a beer now? He'd be like, well, actually, if I do another hour's work, I'll make another 300 quid.
Dentists think like that, particularly. It's very hard for dentists to take days off because they're very aware of their hourly rate and daily rate. But what we do at the beginning, remember, is we decide how many days off a month you want to take, whether you want to work a full day week.
Yeah.
And so we work out entirely how many holidays you're going to take a year. And then you're actually supposed to block them out in your day planner so that you don't feel bad taking time off, because you've already worked out that if you earn X amount an hour, you'll still meet your target.
So what's the lowest number of hours per month or week you've seen someone want to be working? Is it 1 hour and I want to earn 10 grand an hour?
Well, it's me. I only work Thursdays. apart from editing the podcast. Because I spend the rest of the time creating content and managing investments now. So actually, the only content I create now is this podcast with you. But I use it for all my social media marketing. It goes everywhere. Not as efficiently as it should, but it goes most places. Mainly because I turn it over to my VA who does it. Her bits go very well. It's my bits that don't. So, yeah, but, I'm 59. I've worked all my life to get to this point.
Exactly.
My idea of freedom is an empty diary. It doesn't mean I don't do anything. It just means I haven't got any appointments, which is nice. But
yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, these days I've got Wednesdays blocked out completely for creating.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, what I'm creating at the moment is coursework for my students and content for that. But it's also about getting me in the habit of not booking stuff on Wednesdays.
Yes.
Yeah. Yesterday, being a Wednesday, I had a super creative day. I thoroughly enjoyed coming up with the content that I need to come up with anyway. And at the end of it, I was buzzing.
Yeah. And, dear viewers, he actually moved our poker game. In fact, he cancelled our poker game for Wednesdays. Look, guilty face. No, I totally agree with you. It's much more important. So we wanted to talk about pricing, how we go about it. We wanted to talk about estimating. I think we've talked a bit about bullet points, haven't we?
Yeah. And cash flow was my key topic for this month. I'm just thinking about payment terms, but also there's so many different ways. Oh, credit control. That was the other one. So years ago, one of the tools we ended up reselling as an IT company was this. Basically, we called it a bit of robot software for automating stuff. Very early days. And whereas we'd been chasing up invoices from clients eventually, because it's a job no one wants to do, chase up the invoices. There's very few people who enjoy that job. So it always gets left. And emails were coming along and it was good. So we created this bit of software that just, as soon as we sent out an invoice, 2 days later, it sent another email saying, can you just confirm you received it? And it's been passed to the right person.
Nice.
And then a series of other emails just like one a week before, saying don't forget we're expecting. Don't forget, no, it was more like don't forget we're expecting payment of that. Just to flag it up again.
19 days till your service terminates. I find those ones work best for me.
This actually what actually happened. So there were 4 emails that went out. None of them were threatening. They were just reminders and things.
No.
And what happened was they just make your organization look more professional.
Yes.
Which means you're then higher in the list of people who are going to get paid.
Right.
And actually, we turned by just turning on that system without even turning on the after payment was due angrier ones, which also we created. But we changed 90% of our invoices, which were being paid late, to the exact opposite. 90% of them were paid before the due date.
Wow.
Just by having a process in place that was fully automatic to flag it up. And it captured things like, oh, no, I didn't know who to put this invoice to, or this went to the wrong person. So you would capture things like that before they were an issue and a late payment.
The client that I asked, a big warning flag, the client that let me down, who said he'd sent the money before Christmas and it never arrived, he wouldn't go onto my automated payment system. He wouldn't put his credit card in. And even though they have complete control and they can cancel it any time, he wouldn't do that. And that was a red flag looking back on it.
I've never found that to be the main clue, actually, because sometimes people just have different issues. In fact, all my late payment clients are existing ones that have built up a level of trust.
Yeah.
And you get a bit lax because they pay. And then when they get in trouble, you don't chase them quite as fast as you would with a new client, and then it gets worse and worse. But all new clients, you have your proper payment terms, payment in advance, all the rest of it. And it's the just doing things to be helpful for existing clients that gets me in trouble. Yeah.
And the other thing that occurs to me is one of my mentors taught me was always take money out of the business in good times, as obviously you're paying yourself a salary, but then also take dividends. Don't leave them in the company, because what happens is they get swallowed up into, as business fluctuates, they get swallowed up into that fluctuation. Whereas if it's out, paid tax on, and in your personal control, then you can always choose to lend your money back to your business.
Yeah.
But it's a conscious decision rather than leaving it in there to get swallowed up by the vagaries of the economy. I
think. I mean, that's how I do it as well, and I think it's 100% the right thing to do, because it gives you an accurate picture of what your company's actually doing.
Yeah.
If you've taken out the money that you should be paying yourself, then you've got a more accurate picture of the health of your business, and that means you're able to pivot faster because you notice things are going wrong and there's not enough money in the business, or sometimes maybe people should wrap up a business. Yeah, maybe that's not making enough money. Maybe I need to do something different.
No, absolutely. And that's all of these things we're talking about are probably some of the reasons. 95% of businesses fail in the first year, and then 95% of the remaining in the next 5 years or something.
I don't know.
Well, they're not great. But I also, a lot of people start a business because, the E-Myth story, where they're a technician in the business, they can do it really well, and they think they run the business better than the person they're working for. But they don't realize that running a business is a whole different set of being the practitioner in the business.
Yeah.
But you seem
back
to
that pricing your hours thing is the other part of it, is making sure you price in just how long you have to spend doing marketing and selling, that you don't have to deliver your actual service. Yes.
Diary zoning works for me. I will spend a day a week doing marketing and a day a week doing admin and 3 days delivering.
Yeah,
so
but a lot of people, it might take longer than a day just to get delivery, just to get the orders in for some people,
Yeah.
So in which case, to be honest, my business would run quite well on 1 2-day workshop every other week. It would be looking very nice, but pre-COVID. Yeah, in terms of cash flow and the price I paid. But it was quite a lot of effort to get those, all the supporting work, building reputation, doing all the things around it are quite time consuming.
Yeah, but I used to say and my coach used to say to me, you're either in the early days, you're either doing your business or you're marketing your business. There's nothing else you should be doing in work time. And that was another thing, we're thinking about income producing activity hours. If you decide 9 and 5 or 9 and 3 if the kids come home at 3 or whatever, then you or marketing. There's nothing else you should be doing. You shouldn't be putting the washing on. You shouldn't be painting the spare room. You shouldn't be taking the dog for a walk. You shouldn't be watching daytime. And that's what people do. They think, they start a business and they think, well, it's just going to come them. They don't realise how much marketing is involved at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, how many conversations you have to have, and how many times you have to learn what people's objections are and what they're actually rather spend their money on. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get to the point where people are earning a bit of money and they want to outsource all that. So they're earning a bit for someone else to do the thing for them.
Yeah, I mean, I
don't think it can be done. Very well. was trying to rope me in. That's not true. I'm always offering, and we've actually had quite a difficult time trying to adapt my methods to your business, haven't we? Hasn't worked as well as I tried.
Different target market. My B2B market works a bit differently.
B2B is definitely harder, that's for sure.
Well, it's just different. It's different places, different messaging.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a different level of conversation to have with people.
So what books would we recommend? I always like to recommend a nice book. And I think favourites here are Rich Dads to Investing, because the last third of that book is all about how to build a business anyone else would invest in, which means that it's a business worth you building yourself. And Profit First by Michael Mikowski.
I also really liked $1 Million Consulting Proposals.
Oh, wow. So Alan Weiss has written like $1 Million Consulting then?
Oh, my God. He's written about 30 books or something. I haven't read them
really?
all. But
I had no idea.
This one is just how to write the proposal. Okay. And to be honest, I now write all my proposals pretty much based on how this works.
Right.
Yeah, because I've created a series of templates for different things I do that work on a value-based basis, like we've been talking about today. Yeah. And because I didn't come from a corporate world in terms of knowing what people were expecting from a proposal, and I've seen some companies out there put together like 30, 40-page proposals, and I'm like, by the time I'd done that, I could have done the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which frustrates me. So the approach in this book is much what we've been talking about today. Yeah. And it's just there's a few questions you need to ask your client first, but they're completely common sense. They're things you should be asking.
Yeah. No, he's great. I highly recommend him as well.
In fact, I had a client earlier this week who said, "Can you send me a proposal?" And I looked at my proposal template and I was like, "No, I can't. I've not asked you enough questions. I can't actually give you a price."
Very good.
I don't know what success looks like for you yet. I don't know. There were various things. So that look good. Oh, we just had a good comment. I agree. It is a great book.
We've had a comment. Yeah,
that $1 Million Consulting Proposal book sounds great.
I'm swapping to chat now. Well, there we go. That's who I was talking to about your dry sense of humour this morning. So go for it, Lisa. I can't imagine what you're going to be proposing, but she's a very active entrepreneur, as you know. Yes. Good. So I think we've done that one. What are you looking forward to at the weekend or this week coming up?
Tomorrow, well, basically I've got a bunch of speakers that I need to announce to my conference, which is quite exciting. So, each one you've got to craft a nice bit of social media around and then put it on the different platforms. And each one, hopefully, every time I've posted about it, it drives a ticket sale or two. Yeah, so it's one of those classic things. You need to keep active to drive your ticket sales.
And are you going to be interviewing all of them for?
I am. See, that's why I'm quite excited. The first interviews are on Monday. So I'm going to, whether it's 2 minutes, 5 minutes, I'm going to interview all the potential speakers. But I'm going to interview one who's only recording a 5-minute talk, and I suspect the interview will last longer. Yeah.
But good. And have you got video testimonials from the last conference?
It's a good question. We got a couple. Yes, dotted around. It's something when you're running the conference itself, you need to delegate that to the
Yes,
film.
you do. And you need to give them a format as well, so they ask the right questions and edit the questions out. But it's great. I mean, the thing I find is I always forget the assets, the marketing assets I built up from last time, so it's important to gather them all together and use them and repeat them as well, because not everyone sees them every time.
No, absolutely. And you know them, so you assume everyone has seen them, and they haven't.
Yeah.
And the other thing for me, next week is half term, so I'm not going to be working as much. I shall be having a higher hourly rate while I look after my daughter for more days.
Yes, you'll be playing Dungeons and Dragons a lot.
Yeah.
I saw some beautiful. Do you play with dice or something?
There are dice, yes.
Yeah. I saw some beautiful handcrafted dice as I went through my travels on the internet this week. They were really stunning. So nice. And anything else? Did you go on your trip to see if you fit in the camper van?
Oh yeah, that was great. Actually, my first van camping experience.
And did you have to bend your legs?
I couldn't stand up in it. No,
of course not.
What I quite liked, there was a bonus social bit about it. I did not know would happen, but the way this particular camper van works, the hob sticks out the side when you want to cook.
Okay,
so the smoke goes up in the air. So I'm standing there making bacon in the morning, and various random passers-by be like, "Oh, what a great smell!" and come and have a chat.
Oh yes, it's like having a dog. If you're cooking bacon, people talk to you.
Yes. It turns out they're like, "What a great smell."
So, have you got any themed evenings lined up for this week?
Not yet. No, we had Hungarian. You know, got to recover from that.
Yeah.
And the film.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I am. What am I doing? Good God, I've totally forgotten anything that's gone out of my head. We're doing this Monday night thing at the sisters, and we've got Phoebe and Chloe, my niece and daughter, as well. So it's because Heather's partner goes to football on Mondays, so we're going to make that a regular occurrence. And it's under 6, so that's fine. And we're just around the corner, which is also fine. But Sarah comes over from Worthing; she lives in Worthing now, so I'm looking forward to that. And it's going to be a lively weekend with the trading. I did rather well this week on the profit front, so I'm going to look forward to see what I can do this week as well.
So are you just watching it, or you're actually?
No, I'm trading, actively trading. I've got one stashed away in a cold wallet, and I've got 2 that I'm trading. And so I don't trade them both at once. I trade, I'm doing it in 2 tranches, which means I have to keep up on the paperwork, because if it's all flying around in and out, a trade quite quickly, it's very easy to let your paperwork slip.
Yeah, I split my tranches over the last 2 weeks between Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yeah, I know you like Ethereum. I can't bring myself to do it, but I have been trading in and out of one of the DeFi tokens. Okay. Yearn. Yuffie.
Yeah.
I like it because it can go from 13 to 30 to 40 back to 12. I like it's very volatile. So, if you're looking at percentage gains, it's really quite impressive. But you do have to be careful because it is very volatile.
Gotcha. So it's all about when you buy it and when you sell it. That's all.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I've just, I never seem to be bored. I'm always learning something. I've just joined up with a big training course called Ad Skills, who teach you how to do all sorts of paid advertising, just because I want to bring the cost of getting a lead into my challenge down from, it's about £12 a lead at the moment, and I want to get that down if I can.
That's cool. I like learning stuff. One of the things I've noticed with my students at the moment, one of the things we're encouraged to do is all the students have access to LinkedIn Learning.
I don't know what LinkedIn Learning is. What is that? So
it used to be lynda.com. Do you know that? So it's like
really
high quality.
We like this.
Really high quality online learning.
Okay, we need to talk about online learning because someone you referred to me to is asking me to put together a 2-hour presentation on how to create online courses. So we Lynda and LinkedIn Learning and all sorts of things. So we could do a whole episode on that, I'm sure. Add it to the spreadsheet, Pete. He's got a spreadsheet going, of course he has. Okay. All right, well, that's been great. No editing this week. We'll just put it up there. It's all been seen today, hasn't it? Famous last word. All right, I'll see you soon, okay? Have a lovely weekend.
Yeah, and you. Another great, fun episode. Thank you.
Always. Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to the Poke It podcast with Pete Jenkins and Nicola Cairncross. You can find Pete at gamificationplus.uk and you can find Nicola at clicksandleads.com. And do come and join our private Facebook group. Just search Poke It Podcast on Facebook.